Hello guys and welcome for another New World video. Lately I'm not focused 100% into the PvP due to the many bugs, glitches, desync and other problems that came with Season 5. However, I wanted to share with you today a build that is maybe one of the best ones exactly for PvP. The funniest thing is that I myself don't play this build, but the reason is just because it's too defensive and I like to be on the offensive side and stat pad a lot of damage. Before going further into details, I want to thank all of you for supporting the channel, both here in YouTube and of course my live stream on Kick. Without you, I wouldn't be here, so big thanks to everyone. Also, if that's not the first time you watch video from me, please go down there and click the subscribe button. It helps me a lot and it doesn't cost you anything. Thank you. So let's jump into today's build, for which we will take a closer look to the Fire Ice Mage. Now I know that most of you will be thinking, wait, we already had a build for Fire and Ice. Why are you making a video again for that? The reason is quite simple, because this variation of a mage build is the most defensive one for all types of combat, and as we know, especially in wars, being alive is better than anything else. To start it all off, we need to take a look at the most important part, and this of course is the artifact Featherweight. As you know, this is the best defensive artifact for light players and the reason why we want to use it. For last perk, we want to use either Trust or Slash Conditioning, as the physical aversion, which is already placed on the armor, is blocking our chance of adding Enchanted Ward. We also want to get 2 Frigid Down pieces, which should be either hat, gloves or boots. Remember that you cannot take Frigid Down pants due to the fact that they will increase the weight of your equipment and it will put you in medium equip load. For the 2 Frigid Down pieces, we already have placed Elemental Aversion and Enchanted Ward, so the best additional third perk on them would be again either Trust or Slash Conditioning. For the last 2 pieces of gear, which should be the pants and one of the remaining armor pieces, which is not the Frigid Down set, we want to get Enchanted Ward, again Conditioning and a weapon perk. The ideal combination could look like this: pants with Enchanted Ward, Trust or Slash Conditioning and Meteor Shower, and boots with Enchanted Ward, Trust or Slash Conditioning and Unending Toe. Now, it might sound a bit strange that I'm not mentioning neither the Fireball or the Pillar perks, but as I said, you are mostly focused onto the defensive and not the offensive side of the build. This means that going for Fireball or Pillar perks would cost you 2 defensive slots on your armors, and this might lose you a bit of survivability. Also note that your damage will not be that high, so skipping those 2 perks is making no difference at all. It's needless to say that for all armor pieces we want to get Rune Glass gems. I prefer to use Ignited Opals, as they would give me the much needed 10% of fire damage and power and a total of 10% elemental protection. I mentioned on all pieces Trust or Slash Conditioning because I'm recording this video right after the Season 5 started. So far we are still in a meta where most melee players are heavily invested into Trust damage, but with the announced changes to the spear we might see a switch towards the Greatsword and the Hatchet again. Therefore, have in mind that your distribution of conditional perks and the protection from your amulet should be focused on the most problematic physical damage type. Going over to the next part of the build, we have to take a look at the weapons needed for it to work. The easy and fast choice for it, of course, is the Deep Freeze artifact with the last perk Entomb. Placed on the weapon, the Entomb will provide you with extra sustain, which is highly recommended in PvP. For gem in the Ice Gauntlet, I use Clean Onyx without any Rune Glass effects, which will increase the damage from my Ice Storm ability on targets above 70% HP. As this is your opener in the combo, 90% of the times you will benefit from the bonus of the gem. For the fire staff, there are few variations for which you can aim, mostly dependent on your team and group and what is your goal. Really good perks for the weapon are Keen, Vicious, Play Crits, Attunement and Alacritus Punishment. The combination between all those is possible either by using named fire staffs or just by crafting one of them. I personally prefer to play with the Commandant Fire Staff, which comes always with Keen and Play Crits, and I've added the last perk, Alacritus Punishment. But you can also choose other fire staffs and go with different combinations. Another viable fire staff could be the Flint Stick, or you can also use a normal crafted one. For a gem on it, I use Runeglassed Opal or Emerald. I think that with the Opal you can have more consistent results, while with the Emerald you can finish off people easily, but it would be harder for you to be consistent. Something to note here is that I like to play with Keen on my fire staff when I'm using the Ice Gauntlet as a secondary weapon. This is due to the fact that your mana can disappear in seconds, so having extra critical chance not only gives you a better uptime on your play crits and your critical damages, but also it would help you a lot with the mana management and keeping yourself above 50% mana for the extra 5% in power. Another addition to that is that you can use infused fire absorption potions to further extend your defenses while replacing the mana potions. And now, since we know the armor pieces and the necessary weapons, the last thing that we have to take a look at is the jewelries. For amulet, I can suggest you to go with Tanglevine 1 as it comes with health and trust protection. For last perk, you can use either stamina recovery or shirking in power. As I've mentioned earlier, in the case of meta shifts to Greatsword and Hatchet again, it might be reasonable to go with another amulet with slash protection instead of the trust. But always remember that there is still bows and muskets out there. For those of you who feel extra safe, I can also suggest that you try to play without the health. Tanglevine is an amazing named amulet, but for more than a month I'm playing without any health perks, and to be honest, I don't feel such big difference. If you decide to go for such change, I would take an extra refreshing on my amulet on the place of the health. On the ring, I play with classical variation with Keen, Hearty and Refreshing. For the Hearty there is no explanation needed. The Keen obviously is, like I mentioned, for the better mana management and better uptime on the play crits. And of course Refreshing because Invigorated is not working properly, and even if it did, you will never be able to reach the maximum amount of stacks. Lastly, I take Endless Thirst for an earring, as this will provide me even more sustain with all the cool perks this artifact has. For last perk on it, I tend to go with Refreshing to complete the 4 out of 4 refreshing perks. For gems in my jewelry, I usually go with 2 opals and 1 ruby in case the enemy has high amounts of fire damage. Of course, if that's not the case, you can also play around with the gems and you can place other combinations which will suit you the best. The skill trees for both weapons remain mostly the same as before, with small changes in the fire stuff. On the right side of the Pyromancer skill tree, I take Let It Burn on the place of Heat Up. The same core abilities, Pillar, Meteor and Fireball, and their respective passives remain the same. On the Ice Gauntlet side, we have the defensive setup with the core abilities Ice Storm, Ice Shower and Entomb, and of course all the necessary passives, which will provide us with a lot of extra benefits. There are a few different Heartrunes which you can use with this build, and the most common one is the Stone form, which will basically provide you even more sustainability and survivability. The second, which is also quite common, is the Cannon Blast, which will help you to secure kills even from distance. The third, and maybe the least popular from the three, is the Biobomb. This one will help you fight enemies not only outside of their sacreds, but also if they are stepping on their sacred, and you can ignore their healings for a short period of time. The last part of the build are the attribute points. The split which will be the best in that case will be 25 dexterity for extra critical chance, 200 constitution for even more survivability, HP, and of course the bonus defensive stats, and everything that remains goes into the intelligence. If you have a perfect 700 gear score set, you should have exactly 390 intelligence. And with that, guys, I think I covered everything related to the most popular and used Fire Staff and Ice Gauntlet build out there. As mentioned, this build is used by many mages, mainly in wars, and it's safe to say that this is the most defensive and still effective build in terms of damage and performance out there. As always, if you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to share them in the comment section below or in our Discord community, where we discuss all kinds of topics related to New World, but not only. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you on the next one.